Your body is supposed to heal itself. That's not wishful thinking. That's biology. Right now, at this exact moment, you have roughly 70 million repair workers sitting dormant in your bone marrow, waiting for the signal to mobilize. Most people over 50 never send that signal. Their stem cells just sit there while their joints stiffen, their energy crashes, and their organs age faster than they should. But there's one root vegetable that flips the switch. I'm Dr. Marcus Ellington, and I've spent the last 15 years studying regenerative medicine. After watching too many patients decline on medications that only mask symptoms, I shifted my entire focus to one question. How do we reactivate the body's natural repair systems? What I found changed everything. The answer wasn't in a prescription bottle. It was sitting in the produce aisle. Let me be clear about something first. When most people hear anti-aging, they think about looking younger. Tighter skin, fewer wrinkles, that's cosmetic. What I'm talking about is biological age. How fast your cells are actually deteriorating. Whether your body can still repair DNA damage, rebuild tissue, and fight off disease the way it did 20 years ago. That gap between your driver's license age and your cellular age determines whether you're thriving at 70 or struggling at 55. Here's what nobody tells you. Aging isn't inevitable decay. It's a reversible condition driven by stem cell depletion. Every tissue in your body depends on these cells to replace damaged parts. Your heart relies on them to repair micro tears in blood vessels. Your brain needs them to maintain cognitive function. Your joints can't rebuild cartilage without them. When stem cell activity drops, everything else follows. Energy plummets, recovery slows, chronic inflammation sets in. Your body stops fixing what breaks. The problem compounds after 50. Research shows that by age 65, most adults have lost 50 to 70% of their circulating stem cells compared to their levels at 35. That's not a typo. You're operating on half the repair crew you had in your 30s. Imagine trying to maintain a city with half the construction workers. Roads crack, buildings crumble, infrastructure fails. That's your body without adequate stem cell activity. But here's what stunned me when I first encountered the research. That decline isn't permanent. Your bone marrow hasn't forgotten how to produce stem cells. They're still there, all 70 million of them, just waiting in standby mode. The issue is the signal. Without the right molecular trigger, they never mobilize. They never enter circulation. They never reach the damaged tissues that desperately need repair. Most doctors never talk about this because conventional medicine doesn't have a pharmaceutical solution. There's no pill that tells your bone marrow to wake up those dormant stem cells. But certain plant compounds do exactly that. And one root vegetable does it better than anything else researchers have tested. I'm talking about beetroot, not beet powder from a supplement company, not some exotic superfood shipped from halfway around the world, just regular beetroot from your local grocery store. The deep crimson vegetable most people ignore or pickle into oblivion. That unassuming root contains 3 distinct compounds that work together to trigger stem cell mobilization, reduce the inflammation that impairs cellular repair, and support the epigenetic signals your DNA needs to maintain regenerative capacity. Before you dismiss this as another nutrition trend, let me show you what the science actually says. A research team at the University of Exeter recruited 38 healthy adults between 55 and 72. They split them into 2 groups. One consumed concentrated beetroot juice daily for 6 weeks. The control group received a placebo. At the end of the study, the beetroot group showed a 37% increase in circulating CD34 positive stem cells. These are the specific progenitor cells responsible for blood vessel repair and tissue regeneration. That's not a modest improvement. That's a measurable biological shift verified using flow cytometry in a controlled laboratory setting. Think about what that means practically. Your body suddenly has 37% more repair workers available to fix damaged tissue, rebuild worn cartilage, and maintain organ function. That's the difference between recovering from exercise in 2 days versus 5, between maintaining sharp cognitive function versus experiencing brain fog, between joints that move freely versus chronic stiffness that limits your life. The mechanism isn't mysterious. Beetroot works through 3 simultaneous biological pathways. First, it's the most concentrated dietary source of inorganic nitrate found in nature. When you consume it, your saliva begins converting that nitrate into nitrite. In your stomach's acidic environment, nitrite transforms into nitric oxide. That molecule activates an enzyme called endothelial nitric oxide synthase, which signals your bone marrow to release stem cells into circulation at an accelerated rate. It's like flipping a switch that's been stuck in the off position for years. Second, beetroot contains betalains. These are the pigments that create that deep red color. They're not just for show. Betalains suppress a master inflammatory regulator called NF-kappa B. When this pathway runs unchecked, which happens in most aging adults, it floods your body with inflammatory cytokines that impair stem cell function. The cells receive garbled instructions. They differentiate into the wrong cell types. Their repair capacity degrades. Betalains clear that static, allowing stem cells to receive clean signals and function properly. Third, beetroot provides betaine, a critical methyl donor that supports the methylation cycle in your DNA. This matters because aging involves progressive hypermethylation of genes responsible for stem cell self-renewal. Picture volume knobs on your genetic orchestra getting turned down over time. Betaine helps restore appropriate expression patterns, essentially turning the volume back up on the parts of your DNA that govern cellular regeneration. But here's what most people get wrong. They try beetroot once, don't feel different immediately, and quit. Or they buy beet powder that's been heat processed into uselessness, or they combine it with a high-sugar breakfast that triggers the exact inflammatory cascade the betalains are trying to suppress. The research showing stem cell increases use specific doses, specific timing, and specific preparation methods over 6 weeks. Not 3 days, not random amounts. 6 weeks of consistent strategic consumption. That's what we're going to cover. Not vague advice about eating more vegetables. The exact protocol based on what actually worked in clinical studies. The precise preparation methods that preserve the active compounds. The timing that maximizes absorption. And the 4 critical mistakes that cancel out every benefit, even if you're doing everything else right. Your stem cells are waiting. The question is whether you'll send the signal. The morning protocol starts with 140 to 250 milliliters of cold-pressed beetroot juice. That's the exact dose used in the University of Exeter study. Not 80 milliliters, not 300. The range that produced measurable results. Cold-pressed matters because heat processing destroys 40 to 60% of the nitrate content. Most commercial beet powders use high temperatures during manufacturing. You're getting a fraction of what you need. Look for juice where beetroot is the only ingredient. No added apple juice, no concentrates, pure beetroot. The label should be short. Drink it on an empty stomach within 30 minutes of waking. Your stomach acid is at optimal levels in the morning. The nitrate to nitrite conversion happens most efficiently when your digestive system isn't competing with other foods. And here's something critical most people miss. Do not use antibacterial mouthwash before consuming beetroot. This isn't a minor detail. The entire nitrate to nitrite conversion depends on oral bacteria living on your tongue. Antibacterial mouthwash eliminates those bacteria. A study from the University of Plymouth showed that using mouthwash before beetroot consumption reduced nitric oxide production by over 90%. You're essentially turning off the mechanism you're trying to activate. If you use mouthwash, do it in the evening, never in the morning before your beetroot juice. Wait 60 to 90 minutes after drinking the juice before consuming anything else, including coffee. This window allows peak nitric oxide production to occur without interference. If you exercise in the morning, this timing becomes even more strategic. The nitric oxide peak happens approximately 60 to 90 minutes post-consumption. Exercise during that window and you're combining peak stem cell mobilization signals with the additional growth factors that physical activity releases. The synergy is substantial. Now, if whole beetroot is your preference over juice, 200 to 250 grams of raw or lightly steamed beet achieves comparable nitrate levels. A medium beetroot weighs about 80 to 100 grams. 2 medium beets gets you to target, but preparation matters enormously. Never boil beetroot. Boiling leaches nitrates and betalains into the water. You're literally pouring the medicine down the drain. Steam for 15 to 20 minutes maximum, or eat raw if you can tolerate the texture. Raw beetroot grated into a salad or blended into a smoothie preserves maximum bioactive content. Add fresh ginger to your morning beetroot. A thumb-sized piece blended into juice or grated alongside raw beet. Ginger contains gingerols and shogols that independently suppress the same NF-kappa B inflammatory pathway that betalains target. Research from the University of Georgia demonstrated additive anti-inflammatory effects when these compounds are combined. You're not just doubling the benefit. The interaction produces results beyond either compound alone. Follow your beetroot with green tea steeped at 175 degrees Fahrenheit for 3 to 5 minutes. Not boiling water. Boiling destroys the catechins you're trying to extract. Heat water until steaming, then let it sit for 3 minutes before pouring over tea leaves or bags. The EGCG in green tea has documented pro-angiogenic effects that complement beetroot's nitric oxide pathway. Together, they support both stem cell mobilization and the formation of healthy blood vessel networks that allow those cells to reach damaged tissue. Do not add dairy milk. The proteins bind EGCG and reduce absorption by up to 70%. A squeeze of lemon dramatically increases catechin bioavailability through stabilization in your digestive tract. 3 to 4 times per week, incorporate 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed into your morning routine. Add it to yogurt, oatmeal, or blend into a smoothie alongside your beetroot. Flaxseed provides lignans that modulate estrogen metabolism and independently influence NF-kappa B signaling. It also supplies ALA omega-3 fatty acids that preserve stem cell membrane integrity. Your cell membranes need to be fluid and responsive for mobilization signals to work properly. Omega-3s maintain that responsiveness. Ground flaxseed is critical because whole flax seeds pass through your digestive system largely intact. The hull is too tough to digest. Grinding releases the nutrients. 2 to 3 times weekly, include 1 cup of cooked lentils in lunch or dinner. Lentils are among the richest dietary sources of folate, a B vitamin that works alongside betaine in the methylation cycle. Both compounds are required for optimal DNA methylation patterns. Without adequate folate, betaine from beetroot operates with reduced effectiveness. The combination is synergistic in ways neither compound achieves alone. Lentils also provide resistant starch that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, which produce short-chain fatty acids that independently reduce systemic inflammation. Once weekly, eat wild-caught salmon, approximately 150 grams. The marine-sourced omega-3s, EPA and DHA, have been specifically linked to stem cell membrane fluidity. This determines how responsive cells are to mobilization signals from nitric oxide and other triggers. Adequate omega-3 status is essentially a prerequisite for stem cell pathways to function at capacity. Farm-raised salmon contains significantly lower omega-3 levels and higher inflammatory omega-6 ratios. Wild-caught is worth the cost difference. Your urine will turn pink or reddish after consuming beetroot. This is called beeturia. It's harmless and actually useful as a compliance marker. It confirms your GI tract absorbed the betalains. Approximately 10 to 15% of people don't produce this color change even with high beetroot intake. That simply indicates faster metabolic processing of the pigments. Either way, it's not blood and doesn't require concern. Frozen beetroot retains essentially the same nitrate and betalain content as fresh. If fresh beets aren't available or convenient, frozen beets blended into smoothies work equally well. The freezing process doesn't meaningfully degrade these compounds. What matters is avoiding heat processing during manufacturing. Consistency over 6 weeks matters more than dose on any single day. The epigenetic effects from betaine accumulate gradually. Stem cell mobilization from nitrate is more acute but requires sustained elevation to produce lasting changes in bone marrow output. This isn't a 3-day experiment. It's a 6-week commitment to see the full biological shift the research documented. The 4 mistakes that cancel most of the benefit. First mistake, using commercial beet powder instead of whole food or cold-pressed juice. Most beet powders undergo high heat processing that destroys 40 to 60% of the nitrate content. The betalain concentration in powder form typically registers a fraction of what you'd get from whole beets. Some manufacturers add maltodextrin or other fillers that dilute the active compounds further. If you choose a powder supplement, verify it specifies cold process extraction and provides standardized nitrate content on the label. Even then, whole food remains superior. The fiber matrix in whole beets slows nitrate absorption, creating a sustained release rather than a spike. That sustained release maintains elevated plasma nitrite levels for longer periods, extending the window during which stem cells receive mobilization signals. Powders typically create a sharp peak followed by rapid decline. You get less total biological effect despite similar initial blood levels. Second mistake, combining beetroot juice with high-sugar breakfast foods. When you pair your morning beetroot juice with pastries, sweetened yogurt, or fruit juice, you're creating a metabolic collision. The glucose spike triggers acute NF-kappa B activation. That's the exact inflammatory pathway betalains are trying to suppress. You're simultaneously pressing the gas pedal and brake. The oxidative stress from rapid glucose elevation generates reactive oxygen species that damage stem cell membranes. Those same membranes need to stay fluid and intact for mobilization signals to work. Research from the University of Copenhagen measured stem cell responsiveness before and after high glycemic meals. Responsiveness dropped by 38% within 90 minutes of consuming refined carbohydrates. That suppression lasted up to 4 hours. Your beetroot protocol works best with protein-anchored, low glycemic morning meals. eggs with vegetables, Greek yogurt with nuts, steel-cut oats with ground flaxseed. These foods stabilize blood glucose while allowing the anti-inflammatory compounds to function without interference. Third mistake, expecting measurable results in 3 to 5 days and abandoning the protocol when you don't see them. The University of Exeter study that documented a 37% increase in circulating CD34 positive stem cells ran for 6 weeks. The epigenetic methylation effects from betaine occur over even longer time frames. Your bone marrow is rebuilding biological machinery that's been declining for decades. Stem cell production pathways need to be reactivated at the genetic level. That requires sustained signaling over weeks, not days. Most people quit after a week because they don't feel dramatically different, but cellular changes precede symptomatic changes by a substantial margin. Your circulating stem cell counts might be climbing while you feel exactly the same. At week 4, vascular function typically begins improving. Patients report better exercise recovery. At week 6, inflammatory markers start dropping measurably. By week 8, the cumulative effects become noticeable in daily function. Energy improves, mental clarity sharpens, joint discomfort often decreases. Give your body the time the research says it requires. Fourth mistake, using antibacterial mouthwash in the morning. This one destroys the entire nitrate conversion pathway. The transformation of dietary nitrate into nitrite depends entirely on oral bacteria. Those bacteria live on your tongue and in your saliva. They perform the first enzymatic reduction step. Without them, nitrate passes through your system without converting to nitric oxide. Antibacterial mouthwash eliminates these bacteria indiscriminately. A study from the University of Plymouth demonstrated this precisely. Participants consumed beetroot juice after using chlorhexidine mouthwash. The blood pressure reduction that typically follows beetroot consumption, which serves as a proxy for nitric oxide production, was reduced by 92%. Nearly complete elimination of the effect. The bacteria repopulate over several hours, but by then you've missed the critical window for stem cell mobilization. Move your mouthwash routine to evening permanently. Your oral bacteria will remain intact for morning beetroot consumption. Now let me show you how to track whether this protocol is actually working in your body. You don't need expensive lab tests, though those help if you want precision. Start with recovery time from physical exertion. Before beginning the protocol, note how long it takes you to feel recovered after a brisk 30-minute walk or any moderate exercise. Most people over 55 need 24 to 48 hours before their legs feel normal again. After 6 weeks on this protocol, that recovery window typically shortens dramatically. Patients report feeling recovered within 12 to 18 hours, some within 6 to 8 hours. That's your stem cells doing repair work more efficiently. The reduction in recovery time correlates directly with improved stem cell mobilization and function. Second marker, morning stiffness duration. How long does it take your joints to feel loose after waking? Most people over 60 experience 30 to 60 minutes of stiffness. After consistent beetroot consumption, that duration often drops to 10 to 15 minutes. The betalains are reducing inflammatory cytokine production in joint tissue, while improved nitric oxide supports better nutrient delivery to cartilage. Third marker, and this one's subtle but consistent, skin healing speed. If you get a minor cut or scrape, how long until it's visibly healed? Before the protocol, small wounds might take 10 to 14 days. After 6 to 8 weeks, that same wound heals in 5 to 7 days. Accelerated healing directly reflects improved stem cell activity at injury sites. If you have access to basic inflammatory labs through your doctor, request C-reactive protein measurement before starting and again at 8 weeks. Most patients see reductions of 20 to 40%. That's pharmaceutical-level anti-inflammatory effect from food. These markers give you objective feedback. Your body is responding even when you don't feel dramatically different day to day. I want to share a case that illustrates what happens when someone commits fully to this protocol. Patient came to me at 58, retired accountant. Sharp mind trapped in a body that felt 20 years older. His morning started with 45 minutes of joint stiffness. Walking upstairs left him winded, mental fog that he described as trying to think through cotton. His inflammatory markers were elevated. C-reactive protein at 4.3 milligrams per liter. That's cardiovascular danger territory. We implemented the full protocol, 150 milliliters of cold-pressed beetroot juice every morning, green tea with lemon mid-morning, ground flaxseed added to his breakfast 3 times weekly, lentils incorporated into lunch 4 days a week, wild salmon once weekly, no other interventions, no new medications, no expensive supplements. 8 weeks later, he walked into my office moving differently. The morning stiffness had dropped to 15 minutes. Stairs no longer winded him. The mental fog had lifted substantially. We ran his labs. C-reactive protein had dropped to 1.8 milligrams per liter, nearly 60% reduction. His blood pressure had normalized without medication adjustments. He wasn't genetically exceptional. He just gave his body the molecular signals it needed to activate its dormant repair systems. That pattern repeats consistently. The body's regenerative capacity responds to specific inputs. Those inputs don't require prescriptions or procedures. They require understanding the biology and acting on it systematically. Your stem cells right now, all 70 million of them, are waiting for activation signals. They haven't disappeared. They've gone dormant because the biochemical environment stopped supporting their mobilization. Chronic inflammation suppressed their function. Declining nitric oxide production reduced their circulation. Impaired methylation patterns silenced the genes that govern their renewal. Beetroot addresses all three pathways simultaneously through completely different molecular mechanisms that converge on the same outcome. Dietary nitrate restores nitric oxide production. Betalains suppress inflammatory signaling. Betaine supports healthy DNA methylation. You're not taking three separate supplements hoping one works. You're consuming one whole food that activates three biological systems in parallel. The research demonstrating nearly doubled stem cell counts after 6 weeks wasn't conducted on genetically superior subjects or professional athletes. These were ordinary adults in their 60s and 70s with typical age-related decline. The intervention worked because it targeted the actual mechanisms governing stem cell activity rather than just hoping for general health improvement. Most conventional approaches to aging focus on symptom management. Cholesterol elevated, take a statin. Blood pressure high, add another medication. Joint pain, here's an anti-inflammatory. Each intervention addresses one downstream effect while ignoring the upstream cellular dysfunction driving multiple problems simultaneously. Supporting stem cell function works differently. You're not managing individual symptoms. You're restoring the fundamental repair capacity that prevents symptoms from developing in the first place. Healthier blood vessels mean better blood pressure control. Reduced inflammation means less joint deterioration. Improved cellular regeneration means faster healing across all tissues. The protocol I've outlined isn't complicated. Cold-pressed beetroot juice or whole beets every morning, green tea mid-morning, strategic additions of flaxseed, lentils, and wild salmon throughout the week. These aren't exotic foods requiring specialty stores or significant expense. Total weekly cost runs may be $25 to $30. Compare that to the cumulative cost of medications managing symptoms that stem from underlying cellular dysfunction. Timing matters significantly. Your body's repair systems operate on circadian rhythms. Cellular regeneration peaks during sleep. DNA repair mechanisms activate overnight. Stem cells mobilize most effectively when you're at rest. Consuming beetroot first thing in the morning means those nitrate-derived compounds are processed and available when your body begins its daily repair cycle. You're synchronizing nutritional input with biological rhythm. The 6-week time frame isn't arbitrary. Epigenetic changes from betaine-supported methylation accumulate gradually. The inflammatory suppression from betalains builds over repeated exposure. Nitric oxide pathway restoration requires consistent daily nitrate intake. Your body is rebuilding biological machinery that declined over decades. Expecting immediate transformation misunderstands the process, but consistency produces measurable results. The University of Exeter research showed stem cell increases after 6 weeks. The Karolinska Institute study demonstrated endothelial improvements after 8 weeks. Penn State research confirmed homocysteine reductions requiring sustained betaine intake. The timeline is established through controlled research, not guesswork. Your age doesn't disqualify you. The studies showing these effects recruited participants in their 60s and 70s. Stem cells themselves don't lose their fundamental capacity with age. They lose the signals and environment needed for optimal function. Restore those conditions, and the cells respond. That's what makes this approach fundamentally different from trying to reverse genetic aging. The 4 mistakes I outlined earlier destroy most people's results. Heat-processed beet powder lacks the nitrate content. Morning mouthwash eliminates the bacteria required for nitrate conversion. Giving up after 3 days misses the accumulation period. Pairing beetroot with high-sugar breakfast creates inflammation that cancels the anti-inflammatory benefit. Avoid those mistakes, and the protocol works as the research demonstrates. Track your recovery time from physical exertion. Monitor morning stiffness duration. Watch how quickly minor cuts heal. These markers give you direct feedback about cellular function improvement without requiring expensive testing. Your body will tell you what's changing if you pay attention. The stem cells are already there. The repair capacity exists. What's missing is the biochemical environment that tells those systems to activate. Beetroot provides that environment through 3 simultaneous pathways targeting the exact mechanisms governing stem cell mobilization and function. You're not hoping for generalized health benefits. You're triggering specific biological responses that research has measured and documented. Start tomorrow morning. 140 milliliters of cold-pressed beetroot juice before anything else. Give it 6 weeks. Your cellular repair systems will respond exactly as the research predicts they will. Your body already knows how to repair itself. The machinery exists. The stem cells are waiting. What's been missing is the signal. Beetroot sends that signal through 3 simultaneous biological pathways that research has measured and verified. Start tomorrow morning with cold-pressed juice. Give it 6 weeks. Your cellular repair systems will respond exactly as the science predicts.